Okay, so today when I make meals like this, I always like to start with the thing that takes the most time. Today I'm getting started. Well, usually that's dessert, but I'll show you. I made that a couple days ago. I'll show you what I did. But today we're gonna start with the greens. So here I have 12 cups of chicken broth. I am going to add about a pound of smoked turkey necks. So you can add whatever seasoning meat you like here. Today I have smoked turkey necks, and then I am also going to add one large onion that I've chopped, as well as one whole jalapeno. Now here I'm going to turn my heat up until medium high heat and allow this to boil for about 1 hour. The purpose of this is just so that I can season my broth before we get our greens in. So we'll get started on that, and then we'll get started on the duck. Okay, I want to share this easy roast duck recipe with you. Don't be intimidated by duck. I'm going to give you some tips on how to make this really easy and really delicious. Now, smoked duck is my favorite way to do it, but this is my second favorite, but it's also the easiest. So I have a 5-pound whole duck here. I have trimmed it to take the extra layer of skin it usually has here, along with the tail, and all of the giblets have been removed. It's also been pat dry, which is a very important step here to keep splatter from happening in your oven, and I will give you more tips on how to prevent that from happening. So this has been pat dry. I'm gonna go ahead and do the cavity first. So for the cavity, I'm going to add a little bit of salt. And then I have an herb blend from my garden, but you could actually buy the poultry herb blend at the grocery store, or you could forego it altogether. I have rosemary, thyme, and sage. I'm gonna stuff that in the cavity. And then I'm going to stuff a whole onion that I have quartered in the cavity as well. Now today I am doing 2 whole ducks because I have a family of 8 to feed, but the recipe in the description will be for 1. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and do the outside. So for the outside of the duck here, I'm gonna put oil and just rub this in. Okay, so for our blend, we're going to season this with very simple here. I have a little bit of garlic powder, some salt, a little bit of paprika for color, and then some poultry seasoning. Now, duck is so delicious and flavorful on its own. I find that the more simple the flavoring, the better. So I'm just going to give this just a little mix, and then I'm going to juice the 1/2 of a lemon to sort of make a paste rub out of this, whatever you want to call it. And then with the lemon, I'm going to go ahead and stuff that inside the cavity. So here I'm just rubbing in that seasoning paste all over the outside of the skin. It's going to be flavor and color, because that brown skin that's the part we love on a duck. Flip it over on the back side and get all the nooks and crannies. The duck is definitely a special meal outside of your normal chicken or Cornish hens for Sunday dinner or holiday meals. It's a great change, great flavor, of course. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and wash up, set this aside, and then we'll get the duck in the pan. All right, I got my large roasting pan here since I am doing 2 duck. At the bottom of my pan, I'm gonna go ahead and give that duck fat something to absorb. So I have some potatoes, some large potatoes that I just did a large dice on, or a large chop, I should say. Got a couple carrots, and then just some onion. Now again, this is to help with the splatter of the duck because that duck has so much fat. I know some people will put water at the bottom. I don't do that because that makes it steam, and I'm trying to get a crispy skin on here. So I do potatoes, and that duck fat is delicious on top of these potatoes. So from here, I'm gonna get my roasting rack in, and then I'm going to get the duck in breast side down. Uh-oh, I'm losing my onion. That's okay, I'm stuffing back in there. So yeah, I'm gonna get this in breast side down first. I got my oven preheated at 400. And then I am going to cook this breast side down first. And then after about 30 minutes, flip it over to complete cooking. The broth and turkey necks have been simmering for about an hour. So at this point, I am going to go ahead and add in my greens. All right, I have 4 pounds of collards and mustards that I grew in my garden, and we're getting ready to have a hard freeze, so I decided to go ahead and harvest these, so these will be a part of our holiday meal. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these in. They've already been cleaned and picked, and if you want to see my full video on how I pick greens as well as how I clean them, I will link a video to my full greens guide. Halfway through this greens here, I'm gonna go ahead and add my jalapeno, another one, and then just keep piling these greens, and I'm trying to push them down as I'm piling them up so they can go ahead and touch the hot broth so that they can start wilting. Once these start to cook down some, I'll go ahead and add my seasoning salt. I'm gonna do about a tablespoon. All right, boy, this is pile high. All right, I'm gonna push this down with my lid and keep cooking this over medium until it gets tender. All of the greens have wilted down. I'm gonna go ahead and put my seasoning in. I just tasted it, and make sure you taste for seasoning at this point because how much seasoning you add depends on the saltiness of your smoking meat or your flavoring meat, as well as the saltiness of your broth, which is why I like to make homemade broth, because I can make sure that it's very flavorful. But here still, I'm gonna go ahead and add in a tablespoon of seasoning salt, or Cajun seasoning actually here. And then I'll go ahead and just let this cook until my greens are completely done. All right, my greens are completely as tender as I would like them to be. What I'm gonna do is go ahead and fish out those jalapenos so no one will bite into them. And then my meat has already started to come off the bones on my turkey necks, but I'm gonna go ahead and pull the rest of the meat out and get this ready to serve. The duck has been roasting in the oven for exactly 30 minutes. I set my timer. Also, I mentioned previously that I set it at 400 degrees Fahrenheit, but it's actually 450 Fahrenheit. So I'll remember to write that down in the description too, so it won't get mixed up. But at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and flip it over. Okay, so I'm gonna attempt to do this without burning myself, which I do sometimes. You think I get used to it. All right, Try to leave my veggies in there. All right, so get this back in the oven for 30 more minutes. And all this has been cooking for an hour. I let it go an additional 30 minutes after flipping it right side up. I am going to let this cool, and then I'll grab those vegetables out of here and serve that alongside the duck. But for now, we'll get started on the sweet potato casserole. All right, here I have 3 medium to large sized potatoes. I am going to boil these until they're soft to get these ready to put into the sweet potato casserole. Just cover this with water and let this hang out until these are tender. The sweet potatoes are finished. They're completely soft. I am just gonna go ahead and pull them out in my bowl here and let them cool down a bit before doing the casserole. I do need to let it cool though, because I have egg in my casserole and I don't want to curdle them. So I am going to let this cool while I prepare the corn pudding. All right, now let's get started on the corn pudding. This is a very simple recipe, but just making the extra effort kind of makes it go over the top. So I've drained a can of whole kernel corn, and then I'll add 2 cans of cream style corn. So this is part cornbread, part souffle, but 100% delicious. I'll go ahead and mix this first. Then I got 5 eggs here. Just gonna beat up. And this one is a family favorite for my kids. Every year I allow my children to decide what they want me to cook for their birthdays, and my oldest daughter, this corn was usually one that she wanted with fried chicken. All right, get everything else in. I have a little bit of sugar. As always, the full measurements will be listed in the description box for you. Make it really easy. A little butter, and that is melted butter. All right, I'm gonna get in 1 package of Jiffy, good old Jiffy. I keep it on hand just for this particular recipe. Okay, I have 1/2 cup of sour cream going in. I'm gonna add a little bit of vanilla. And that's it. Get this mixed together. Now I have my oven preheated at 350. All right, I have my buttered casserole dish. We're gonna get this in. Got the oven preheated at 350. This is going to go in and bake for about 35 to 45 minutes. The sweet potatoes have been cooled now. I'm just gonna get this started. This is another simple recipe. When I do things, when I cook meals, I try to do a mix. Maybe there's something that may be more complex, but then other things are simple. It's just a mix and match of things to kind of help facilitate balance. And really, it's kind of how I try to be about most things. I'm just gonna get this started just a little bit. It'll be a lot easier to do once I mix everything else in. And again, I just got some simple ingredients. I am a fan of sweet potatoes. I really like them with just butter. I really don't need anything else. So this recipe is just really simple, but you could definitely go all out. It's your kitchen, your taste buds. So I have a 1/2 cup of brown sugar. Got some milk. Got a couple eggs I'm gonna go ahead and beat in here. And no, my chickens are still not laying. They would pick the time of year when egg prices are crazy to stop laying. If you have any tips, if any of you own chickens or know someone who does, you have any tips on how to get them to lay, please let me know in the comments. All right, so last couple of things here. I'm gonna get in a little salt just to balance the sweetness, just a tad. And then I am going to do a teaspoon of vanilla. And then this is optional, but it's the thing that I like. I like the flavor of lemon with sweet potato. It brightens it up for me. So you're not gonna be able to taste it, but I got half a teaspoon going in. And then just some melted butter, half a stick. So give this a good mix before starting on the topping for this casserole. Okay, I have a 2-quart buttered baking dish here. Get my filling in. And I would, if you got sweet potato lovers, go ahead and double this recipe and just cook it in a 9x13 pan. The last thing we're gonna do for this sweet potato casserole is the topping. You could add marshmallows. I know a lot of people like to do that. Today I am going to do a pecan sugar mixture. So I have half a cup of flour, some brown sugar, a little mix here. We're gonna go in with some butter because everything's better with butter, of course. In Paula's kitchen anyway. And then some pecans. Now, I do like to toast my pecans and my nuts, period, in certain recipes, but this is going to go on top, so it'll be toasted as this casserole cooks. So I'm just mixing until all of the butter and flour have come in contact with that butter. Well, all of the flour and sugar. Thank you so much for hanging out in the kitchen with me this far. If you've gotten this far in the video, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And I mean that sincerely. You know, you could be hanging out with anybody else in the kitchen, but you're doing it with me today, and I'm so grateful to have you here. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. We have some good times and some laughs and some good food. Who doesn't love that? All right, so go ahead and get this on top to get ready to complete this meal. You know, I'm just gonna go for it. Now I'm gonna get in the tools that God gave me because, you know, we're not gonna fuss too much. We're just gonna get it all on here. I don't want to disturb my casserole, so I don't want to use a spoon right now. Okay, this is going in the oven at 350 for about 25 to 30 minutes. And here is my completed holiday spread. I serve this alongside my chocolate rum balls. I'll be sure to link that recipe for that in the description box. Other than that, enjoy your holiday, Merry Christmas, and have a Happy New Year.